Hi, I'm Lily Hope, Chilkat and Ravenstail weaver living and working in Juneau, Alaska, and we are going to study some cedar bark today. I am Raven Duckdane from the Snail House with my mother's people originating out of Hoona, Alaska. And I've been living and working here in Juneau for more than a decade, couple decades now, and this is my love. I love doing all things weaving related, and I'm happy to share this stuff with you today. We're gonna jump right in and start cooking some cedar bark. We like using yellow cedar because it's a little softer and a little less sappy. It's also easier on the hand when we start spinning it into Chilkat warp. So I have this beautiful bag of cedar scraps and this amazing round of cedar, so you can use either. Obviously I wouldn't put this into my crock pot, but we're going to use these tiny. I just wanted to show you that that's an option, and that's how it looks when it comes off the tree, right? That's a strip that's about as wide as we ever want it to come off the tree, a little bit, maybe a little wider, but we don't want to kill our cedar trees when we pull off the inner bark, so that's about as wide as we want it to be when we're pulling off a strip. This has already been seasoned for a couple of years, so it's nice and dry and ready to be boiled if I wanted to make it useful for spinning into Chilkat warp. But I've got this other little bag of little scraps, with some yarns in it, and this is what I'm going to put into the crock pot here so that it can cook a little faster, and when there's more surface of the bark exposed, you get more sap out of it, essentially. So we're just going to take some of this and put it down into this pot with mostly full of water. So we're going to submerge this down in. And you can get scraps like this from your cedar bark friends, your aunties and family and friends who are ready to let go of their roots or their scraps. And I don't mind using scraps like this because this is pretty perfect for spinning into warp. Ideally like this long. What is that? 2 hang looses. That's about the ideal length, but we're going to take some of this, put it down into our pot, and fill our pot enough that it has space to cook down in. You know, it's not completely stuffed full, but also, you know, enough that it's going to be worth your time because it is 3 days slow cooking in a crock pot. So we're just going to set this down into our pot here. You want your water level to be high enough to completely submerge your bark, and then enough bark in it so that it has space to really spread out and not bunch up too much. But that's pretty good. That's about how we want to start. And then turn it on low. So I'm going to push this little button here. Where are you? Turn you on. Hey, this guy, putting him on low, and then we can set this for as many hours as we want. This one anyway. What does it say? I'm gonna go 8, 9, 10, 12 hours. I'm gonna go at least 12 hours, and then I'm gonna come back and change my water. So it's gonna take a little bit to get this up to temperature. I also want to say this is a crock pot that is dedicated to cooking cedar bark. Once you have cooked cedar in your crock pot, don't use it for food anymore, okay? All right, so that's my long-time loved crock pot for cooking cedar. I'm gonna put the lid on and let this heat up and cook for the next 12 to 24 hours. I'm gonna come back to it and pour the hot water out into some gravel or somewhere where you're not growing your favorite things, because this sappy water will kill your plants, okay? So here we go. We're gonna walk away and come back tomorrow, and we're gonna see what it's doing. All right, see you then. And we're back. This is day 2. Ooh, that's hot. This has been cooking since yesterday for those good 12 to 24 hours, and we just want to check and see what it's doing. So I might burn my finger. I'm going to reach in here and see. But we've got our bark that we put in yesterday, and it's been cooking. You can see the water level's a little lower, and I kind of want to grab one of these. I'm good. Okay, a little bit hot. So you can see that there's just a little bit of sap still on here. We've got a lot of sap on here still. You can see the little nubbies of it right here that's trying to come off. So that is going to soften and get melted into the pot some more. That is the goal of changing the water so much, is to get all these little sappy pieces out, because we want the sap to not be in our work. It's going to be really sticky once we start spinning with it. So a couple days, 2 or 3 days in the crock pot, and this will all go away. And it's not quite as supple as I want it to be. So we're going to cook it one more day, but before I do that, I need to change the water, because the sap is actually accumulating on the top of this water here. And so I'm going to put the lid back on and carry this outside to my driveway and pour it into the gravel where I'm not going to kill anything. And then put fresh water in, reset my clock, let it cook for another 12 to 24 hours, and by then it should be really close to done. It might be 2, might be 3 days, but you want to check it each day and see if there's still sap present. And by the 3rd day of changing the water for a couple of days, we should be good to go to pull it out and split it down. Here we go. Welcome back. This is our 3rd and final day of cooking on our crock pot. It's so deceptively hot. So it's been cooking for 3 days. We've changed the water 2 and 3 times. And here we have, oh gosh, you can really see the water level has really gone down, all of this being cooked out. And we are going to pull this beautiful bark out of the water. It doesn't have any sap left in it, so it's going to be so nice for spinning our Chilkat warp. And I'm going to use a little pin right here. It has a little button on it. And I'm going to pull some of this out so you can see it. It is so supple and soft. And I'm going to show you right away that you can just take your little pin right here. I like them because they have little buttons on them. And we're going to pull one of our strands out of this warm water, fold it in half a little bit like that, and then pierce it right through the halfway point right here, and start splitting it down small. Ooh, that split into 2 pieces. So we're going to go like that, split it smaller. And this is actually almost perfect already, just that single split. So we're going to let that be as it is. I'm going to drape it over my wrist as I continue to grab the next, ooh, hot, grab the next one. And same thing, just going to pierce it in the center. I'm also piercing it from the center and the center, right? So folding the strand about in half and then splitting it in half again, about halfway, and wiggling that. And I'm really just using the pin to help me, like I could use my fingernail because this is so supple. I could just split it right in half this way and it'll split nicely that way too. And then hanging the finished pieces over my hand, wrist. And this obviously is a little too thick. We want it to be about the thickness of Glide dental floss, and splitting that guy down. And then as we're hanging them, or as I'm separating them, I like to separate them by length. So this one would kind of be in this space, like it's so short. That might be the last ones that I use as I've been spinning my bark. I really love the longer ones, but it's pretty important to organize them by length so that you can decide when you need to use those longer or shorter pieces, because once we start spinning, you'll see that you may need those. Ooh, nice and warm. Okay. Ooh, that's a long one. Okay, good times. So keep splitting down to splitting halfway, putting a little pin in about halfway thickness of this. Again, you may end up with, depending on what kind of bark you get your hands on, you might have much wider pieces to start with, and then you'll be splitting and splitting and splitting to get to this point. I'm lucky to have cedar bark weaver friends that want to give me their scraps. So that's it. That's the gist of it. Oh, this one's a little thick. We're going to split that one down one more time. Yay! Wow, that one's really long. Ooh, okay. There we go. And ideally, you would organize these by length. So this little grouping, I'd probably lay this down on my table and then keep my longer strands together. Just so that when you're spinning, you can kind of decide whether you need a smaller one, a shorter one, or a longer one. You're going to add up with your wool. Okay, so that's it. We're going to split all of this bark down to tiny pieces like this to be ready to spin Chilkat warp.